Finney's leg has been shattered in the fall from the tree. Everyone talks to Gene about the injury in the following days, but no one suspects him of any wrongdoing. No one is allowed to see Finney at the infirmary. Gene spends an increasing amount of time alone in his room, questioning himself. One day, he decides to put on Finney's shoes, pants, and pink shirt. When he looks in the mirror, he sees himself as Finney, and a wave of relief comes over him. The feeling of transformation lasts through the night but is gone in the morning, and Gene is confronted once more with what he has caused, whether or not deliberately, to happen to Finney. That morning after chapel, Dr. Stankpole tells Gene that Finney is feeling better and could use a visit. He says that Finney's leg will recover enough for him to walk again but that he will no longer be able to play sports. Gene bursts into tears and the doctor tries to comfort him, saying that he must be strong for Finney. He notes that Finney asked to see Gene specifically, from which Gene concludes that Finney must want to accuse him to his face. Gene goes in to see Finney but, before expressing any of his own ideas about what happened, asks Finney what his memories of the incident are. Finney says that something made him lose his balance and that he looked over to Gene to see if he could reach him. Gene recoils violently and accuses Finney of wanting to drag him down with him. Finney explains calmly that he wanted merely to keep from falling. Gene then states that he tried to catch hold of Finney, but that Finney fell away too fast. Finney tells him that he has the same shocked facial expression now that he did on the tree. Gene asks if Finney recalls what made him lose his balance in the first place. Finney hints that he had a vague notion that Gene was the cause, but he refuses to accept this idea and apologizes for even considering it. Gene realizes that if the roles were reversed, Finney would tell him the truth about his possible involvement. He rises quickly and tells Finney that he has something terrible to say to him. Just then, however, Dr. Stankpole enters, and Gene is sent away. The next day, the doctor decides that Finney is not well enough to receive visitors. Soon after, an ambulance takes Finney to his home outside Boston. The summer session ends, and Gene goes home to the South for a month's vacation. In September, Gene starts for Devon by train and is delayed considerably. He catches a taxi at Boston's South Station, but instead of taking it to North Station for the last leg of the trip to Devon, he proceeds to Finney's house. He finds Finney propped up before a fireplace with hospital-type pillows. Finney is pleased to see him, though not surprised, and asks about his vacation. Gene recounts a story about a fire back home and then says that he was thinking a lot about Finney and the accident while at home. He now tells Finney that he deliberately shook the limb to make him fall. Finney refuses to believe him and grows furious. Gene realizes that he has injured Finney further with his confession and that he must take back his words, though he cannot do it now. Finney says that he will return to Devon by Thanksgiving. It is significant that the first thing that Gene records himself doing after the tragedy is putting on Finney's clothes and mimicking Finney's expressions in the mirror. This bizarre act symbolizes the extent to which Gene has blurred, and continues to blur, the line that separates his own identity from that of his best friend. To alleviate his guilt about his involvement in the fall, he seeks to escape his very self and find refuge in someone else's clothing, someone else's identity. Moreover, while becoming Finney allows Gene to escape his own guilty conscience, it also enables him to eradicate the feelings at the base of that guilt. Gene feels guilty about the accident because he knows how envious he was of Finney and cannot help but think that this envy somehow influenced his actions, even if only on a subconscious level. By dressing up as Finney, however, Gene purges himself of this envy by becoming the object of it. It is again Gene's desire to be like Finney, or actually to be Finney, that sparks his confession. He admits what he thinks is his wrongdoing after realizing that Finney would have done the same were he in Gene's position. Ironically, Finney himself has no interest in Gene's declaration. In a sense, he is in denial. He has suspected a similar version of events, or so we assume from what he says to Gene about his crazy idea that Gene himself caused the fall, but he refuses to admit such a possibility. His life altered forever by the accident, Finney seems to need something to latch onto, and he latches onto his friendship with Gene. The relationship becomes the center of his life, especially once he returns to Devon in later chapters. Finney feels an increasing necessity to ignore the relationship's unpleasant aspects,